Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to the third and final spring webinar. Are you as sad as I am that this is the last one? Maybe, maybe not. It's all good. I'm not tripping. I'm not tripping because we're going to see you again very, very soon after this one. But if you're here, it means that you have chosen to tune in to this final webinar on landing the learning. So this is maintaining engagement and energy in the final descent. So the last days of this school year, if you're like, what can I do with the kiddos? What can I do with my students where we won't lose any learning time, or maybe I need to remediate and reteach something really quickly before my students go off to the next grade, and you just let them fly, right? So that's what today is for. My name, if you have been on the first two webinars, it was Ebonique Brooks, but this past weekend I was married. So my name is now Ebonique Gill. So I know if you're looking, you don't have the wrong webinar. This is still the same webinar, just with a new last name. Okay, so just going ahead and making that aware because I'm getting used to saying it too. So my name is Ebonique Gill. I am a professional experiences facilitator with Uncomplicate Ed. If this is your first time here, welcome. If this is your second time here, welcome back. If this is your third time here, we are besties by this point. Like, we're family. Like, I will let you know when we're having a barbecue. Okay, so you know. Once again, I am with Uncomplicate Ed. We are a wonderful organization that provides resources, products, different trainings, so that we're able to uncomplicate education in Florida and beyond. If you're here, you probably already know about us, but if not, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're so happy to have you a part of our Uncomplicated Ed family. Now, if you're watching this is a recording, but we would still love for you to scan the QR code so that we can follow up with you with any resources or just a follow-up email altogether. Now, if you are here on the day of, then you know that this QR code means that you were entered in a raffle for a $25 Amazon gift card. All right, and just to reiterate, raffle, boom, that's what happened. A little bit about me, if this is your first time, Florida State University graduate, go Seminoles. I am a Teach for America alum, particularly for the Jacksonville region. I'm a former math teacher, grades 5 through 8, vocal instructor, and arts educator. All right, a couple virtual norms. You don't really have to pay attention to the first one, making sure that your microphones are muted, because if you're watching this right now, you're probably alone. So, hey, if you want to talk to me, you want to yell at me, not in a bad way, but like yell, like, yes, girl, that was good. Feel free to do so, okay? I will feel the energy through the screen. Now, I do have where you should participate fully, be here, because we're going to have a couple of times where you can pause and reflect and decide how you want to use the strategy or the strategies in your classrooms for these last couple of weeks. So yes, participate fully, be here, be as present as you can be. But luckily you got the recording, so you can be as present as you want to be multiple times, even if you want. Okay. So during our time together, we've kind of broken it up into things that we want to focus on. So we're going to focus on reviewing and refining, reflecting and revealing, and refreshing and refueling. It's a lot of R's. I know. But if you can see, I can't roll my R's. I wish I could, because I really would have jazzed this up a little bit. So review and refine, reflect and reveal, refresh and refuel. So let's get this party started. Okay, let's do it. So in the chat, granted, you don't have to do this because you're watching a recording at the moment, but you can do this, just to yourself at home. You can shout it at me, like I said. So I have a question here. The question is, which best represents your current mood? Now, if you have been to a training, an uncomplicated training, you might have seen this, but who knows, your song might have changed since then. Okay, so if so, hey, I'm not judging. That just means you got good taste. All right, so which best represents your current mood? Is it A, Pray by Bon Jovi? Is it B, I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor? Is it C, I'm So Excited by the Pointer Sisters? Or is it D, It's the Final Countdown? So if you want to pause now and be like, you know what? I think right now it's I'm so excited. Okay, I can smell the ocean, the beach. I can smell the chlorine in the pool. I can smell, I was gonna say cocktail. I can smell the mocktail. There we go. We kept it good. But hey, I'm a former teacher. All right, enjoy your summer. Here we go. Review and refine. So we are starting with reviewing and refining. Now, this is for the educators, really all of you who don't want to waste a single second of time that you have with your students. Maybe there are some things that you want to review from the beginning of the year. Maybe there are some things that you want to refine and fine tune that you tried, you've done, and it's like, you know what? I think I got a little bit of time, so let me correct it now. Okay. So something that you can do are a couple of strategies that are included in peer dialogic teaching. Peer dialogic teaching. That means that the peers, meaning your students and themselves, they are exercising their ability to talk and communicate with one another, to articulate their thoughts. Okay, so we want our students to be able to articulate their thoughts, right? To be able to say what it is that they're thinking and to be able to reason. Hint, hint. Remember when we talked about that? Yep. So peer dialogic teaching, and you can do that through peer coaching. Okay, so this is our very first activity here, our very first strategy. And it goes like this. So there will be a partnership of two students. One of your students, partner A, will solve the first problem, and then they will do a think aloud of how they solved it. Partner B, at the same time, will be solving problem 2, and then they will do a think aloud, of how they solved it as well. So if you see, this is a first grade problem, and it did come from the FLDOE FAST test release document. So the first problem is, which of the following are ways to make 43? And you have some options there. So partner A will be solving that, while partner B reads problem 2. Using base 10 manipulatives or drawings, show at least 2 different ways to make the number 62. So they'll both be solving them at the same time. And once they solve, they will come back and explain their thinking. So they will do a think aloud of how they solved it. All right, so peer coaching. Now, this is a first grade example, but this is a third grade example and how you can apply it to ELA, right? Because that was math. So we have a passage here that was provided. This also, just in case you're interested, it comes from the FLDOE FAST test release support document. So we have a passage here. Partner A will read problem 1 and solve. Partner B will read problem 2 and solve. Once they decide on what their answers are, they will come back together and do a think aloud of how they solved it. All right, so it can work for both math. It can work for ELA, really for any class. It can work for electives if you're an elective teacher and you're watching this. Okay, so just in case. Now, secondary, I know you didn't think I was leaving you out. This is a recording, so I'm doing both elementary and secondary here, okay? We're in this together, like High School Musical. All right, so partner A would solve this first problem. Which expression is equivalent to 7k plus 2 times 5k minus 9? So they'll be solving that problem. While partner B solves problem 2, 5 points from a function f are plotted in the first quadrant of the coordinate plane as shown. Which equation could represent the function? So both of them will be solving these problems. They'll come back and then do a think aloud together. All right. Now I have another one for secondary. Here we go. Now this is actually a civics question, but it still comes from the FLDOE FAST test release document. All right. So partner A will be solving problem 1. Which action did the US government take to help make the world a safer place to live? And then problem 2, they have an excerpt that they will have to read and then answer which principle of government is described in this excerpt. All righty. Okay. So that is peer coaching. By the way, peer coaching, partner A, partner B, they do different problems, come back together, think or explain their thinking on how they solve those problems. Now, next up, we have bow tie. Now, this is another peer dialogic teaching strategy here. So bow tie, it's very similar to peer coaching, but the difference is your 2 students that are in that partnership are working on the exact same problem. Okay, so they're not working on it together. They're working separately, but it's the same prompt, it's the same problem. Once you give your 2 students time to work this problem out, then they come back together and have a collaborative consensus on what the answer is for that problem. So instead of working on different problems, they're working on the same one. But this time, whenever they are, discussing their thinking, they are able to, see what similarities there are, see if there are any differences, right? So I love this activity. I love bow tie because it reminds me a lot of math. right? Young, I was a math teacher. I'm not biased. ELA teachers, by the way, or science teachers, or civics, or social studies. I'm not biased much. But it reminds me of math because a lot of times there are several ways to solve the same problem. It doesn't mean necessarily that you are incorrect because you use a different way, depending on what it is that the question is asking you to do. But that's really what I love about math, and I love that about bow ties. So another strategy, bow tie. Now, I want to show you a couple of examples for elementary and secondary, just in case you're like, okay, well, how could this work? What's an example of that? Well, here is one question. So using the numbers 99, 79, or 89, make three true statements. So using less than, greater than, or equal to, right? So both partner A and partner B will be working these problems out simultaneously. And then once they complete the problem or they find their answer, they will come back together and discuss their thinking, identifying any similarities or any differences that they may have encountered. And here's another one for ELA. Choose the correct verb. Maybe it's something that doesn't require a passage, right? That's something that I focused on for these examples, but feel free if you want to give your students a passage to read and then have them answer questions about it, or maybe you want to do a character analysis or something like that, feel free to. I just did this so you wouldn't have to stop, pause, and read a passage if you wanted to, okay? I was just giving you options. So choose the correct verb here. The dog blank loudly every morning. Is it A, bark, B, barking, C, barks, or D, barked? Okay, so this is one, partner A and B, they will solve it on their own, and then they will come back together and discuss their thinking. All right, the bow tie. All right, and here's another one, secondary. I didn't forget about you. I'm big on vocabulary. I honestly feel like vocabulary is such an important strategy that a lot of people don't focus a whole lot of time on. But I know for a fact that spending more time on vocabulary would only be beneficial to literacy, right? Anything that you are teaching that has to do with reading or reading comprehension, I really think can only be enhanced by teaching vocabulary. So I included a vocabulary example here. So which word is the best synonym for meticulous? Is it A, careless, B, hasty, C, thorough, and D, uncertain? Now, being that this is a recording, don't be afraid to pause me and answer the question, right? Because I know sometimes as teachers, we look at the question, we're like, oh, I want to answer it. My fingers are itching. I have to answer it, right? So feel free, if I ever give you an example, to pause me, even if I look crazy on the freeze frame, pause me, and then try to answer the question yourself. Here's another one. Like I said, feel free to pause me, but we have a science example here. So Janice is learning about compounds. Which of the following best describes a compound? So remember, we're doing bow tie here. So both partner A and partner B would get this question. They will work independently on the question. And then depending on how much time you give them, maybe you just give them, I don't know, 60 seconds to a minute and a half. They work on this and then they come back together and describe their thinking. So which of the following best describes a compound? Is it A, a substance made up purely of one element? B, a group of substances that are either acids or bases? C, a group of substances that can be separated by a physical change? Or D, a substance made up of two or more elements that are chemically combined? Now, if you're super curious, like I said, pause me, answer the question. If you have paused me, the answer is D, just in case you're curious and you're like, did I get it right? If you chose D, you got it right. So good job. Now, what if we mix it up a little bit, right? You can start here. So start in the middle. What is it that your students are talking about? Now, let's say that you give them a template that looks like this, right? It looks like a bow tie. You would just put your question or your prompt in the center. So this is an actual student example here. So the question or the prompt was to jot down ways to represent 36. Now, just looking at partner A and looking at partner B, this is going to be such an interesting conversation when they come back together, right? Because if you look at the left, we have multiplication problems, we have addition, we have subtraction, we have, yeah, all of those. And then on the right, same, right? We have some addition, we have subtraction with just two numbers, we have multiplication, we have addition, right? But if you notice on the right, there's no division. On the left, there's division, right? So there are some things that both partner A and partner B can discuss with it being similarities or differences in how they approached answering this prompt. Now, what if we mixed it up a bit, ELA, and talked about theme, right? So here are a couple of examples. Here's a question using Charlotte's Web, which is on, if you're in Florida, the best text list. Jot down examples from Charlotte's Web that show the theme of friendship. So in the middle, the theme would be friendship. Now, I do want to point out this note. So this is authentic student work, but we retyped it, okay? So these were originally handwritten responses, and I believe the next example will also be the same. So if you're looking at this and you're like, oh my goodness, the typos, like are the people at Uncomplicated Ed really certified? Yes, we are. These are actual student work, okay? So I just wanted to make you aware. If you see any typos or any misspellings, this is authentic. Okay, so friendship, partner A said, the spider helped Wilbur. She was nice and wrote in her web. And then partner B said, Fern liked to visit Wilbur. Charlotte helped Wilbur because of the words. Wilbur takes care of Charlotte's babies. Okay, so now they have something to discuss. Why did you say what you said? Why did you choose that example of friendship in Charlotte's web, right? So that can really start some discourse there. Then secondary, we have one using George Orwell's Animal Farm. So how does Animal Farm, this would be the prompt, how does Animal Farm represent the universal theme power and corruption? How does Animal Farm represent the universal theme of power and corruption? So in the middle, once again, this is authentic student work. So we retype this, might include some misspellings, some grammar areas, so just keep that in mind. So on the left, power and corruption, Animal Farm. On the left, partner A said, when Napoleon started giving less rations to other animals and much more to the pigs, and when he started calling himself a leader, when Squealer was lying to the animals about the 7 commandments when he was rewriting them. Okay, and then partner B says, it demonstrates power and corruption because all of the animals overthrow Mr. Jones and maintain a farm led or led by Napoleon. Right? This is good. They will definitely have something to discuss, not to mention it allows them to be able to refresh their memory on Animal Farm and on actual things that took place in the book or in the text. Right? So just imagine doing that in your classrooms. All right, so that was bow tie, by the way. First one was peer coaching. Second was bow tie. This one is called talk and track. Talk and track. So this is peer collaboration. It involves students thinking of their thinking, right? We love that metacognition and verbal reasoning. So it looks like this. You talk, I track. You talk, I track, right? And then you can reverse the roles in your classroom. So here we go. Now I want to kind of backtrack just a little bit here. All right, just like that, we're back. So once again, talk and track, talk and track. Oops, the day is it. My apologies. Thought I was clicking something else. There we go. All right, there we go. Okay, so talk and track, where one student talks and the other student tracks. So here's what that looks like. If you are the talker, and this is something that you can actually display for your students to be reminded of the guidelines or the roles and responsibilities as both the talker and the tracker. So as the talker, I think aloud clearly. I explain each and every step that I use. I use academic vocabulary. I'm confident when I'm speaking. And as the tracker, I listen actively. I write, or maybe I draw or point to key steps or ideas. I ask clarifying questions and I restate what I hear. Now, as both talker and tracker, they should be working as a team and making sure that they are respecting one another with their voices. Okay, so talk and track, talk and track. So one person is writing down, meaning they're tracking what the other person is talking about, and then you can reverse the roles. All right, so that's just a quick peer dialogic teaching activity. All right, next up. Listen, if I'm going fast, remember, this is a recording. Feel free to pause me, rewind me. I don't want to say fast forward me because I want you to get all of the information, but I'm just making you aware that like this is a recording. So feel free to, if you need to note take, or if you're like, oh my goodness, I need to be writing all these strategies down. These are great. Then I'll pause me. Okay. Get you some writing material, sticky notes, notepad, up to you. All right. So this next one is called Ripple. Uh, also known as cumulative collaboration. Now, once again, we're encouraging that collaboration amongst our students here. So this strategy, it's called 1, 2, 4, all. 1, 2, 4, all. Doesn't that kind of sound like all of us should like put our hands in the middle and like say this, and then when we get to all, just 2, 4, all. Like it just, that's how my mind works. I'm sorry, I'm silly. Okay, here we go. So here's how it works. Now you notice you see people. Now, first, when you give your students a prompt or a task, you're going to give them individually, you're going to give them time to think, write, or draw their responses to that prompt or that task as needed. Okay, so the first step is individual. That's where the 1 comes from. Then 2, individuals then pair up and share their ideas and possibly come to a consensus, or they add new ideas, or they debate and select the best response, right? Like we can only hope that our students add new ideas, right? That they take so much, take charge really of their learning, that they go even deeper into the learning. So we hope that they add new ideas. We hope that they're able to debate in an appropriate and positive way and be able to select the response. All right, so that's 2 individuals. Then they pair up and share their ideas. And then 4, what do you think happens here? 2 partnerships will join together and continue that collaborative conversation. Okay, so 1, 2, 4. And then, of course, you guessed it, all. This is when the class comes back together as a collective. So the teachers are able to guide the students through recapping, through their reflections, through their share out all of the ideas that they all shared in both their partnerships and the 2 partnerships that became 1, and then just discussing it whole group. So it's almost like the teacher is taking charge of the facilitation of 1, 2, 4, all when we get back to all. And so I'm going to give you some specific examples of how something like this would look with an actual prompt. So this is a science example. Science, I know you didn't think I was leaving you out. I already did the question with Janice and the compounds. Now I got you. I got you again for 1, 2, 4, all. All right, here we go. So here's the prompt. Draw and label one animal that has a special adaptation. So they would answer this individually. So that's 1. 2, then they find a partner. They discuss their ideas, and then they talk about how the animal uses their adaptations to survive in its environment. 1, 2, 4. It's when that one partnership joins another partnership. They share their ideas and identify any similarities, differences, and emerging themes that they may have discovered. Then all people, they come back together as a class and group animals by similar adaptations. Okay, so this is just one example. This is just one example, but this could be how it looks in your classes. Now, let's say ELA, because that was a science example. Let's say in ELA, you're reading an informational text about animal adaptations. You can have students use 1, 2, 4, all in ELA as well. Okay, so that's how it can work. This can also be used in math. It can be adapted really to any content area. And it's something that allows your students to, once again, discuss their thinking, collaborate, communicate, and really listen, actively listen to one another's thinking, which is, that's a skill that our students can implement well beyond the classroom. So, okay. Now, we have another science example here for 1, 2, 4, all. You can use the energy source sketch. So this is more so your secondary science example. So individually, your students can sketch an energy source. Then they can chat about energy flow once they get together with their partners. And then the 2 partnerships come together to talk about patterns of transfer. And then they can just organize the web once we come back whole group. So here's how that could look. Individually, they would draw and label the food chain with at least 3 organisms. together in one partnership. The partners will share and discuss, well, how does energy flow from one organism to another? What might happen if one organism is removed? And then two partnerships come together and then they join and analyze. So what roles or animals repeat? Are there any similar energy flows or unique ones that you discovered? Then, of course, to organize the web, once everyone comes back whole group, they're going to summarize their findings and clear up any misconceptions or anything that they may have discovered. Then the original partners can get together and create an even larger web that shows interconnected energy paths. Okay, so 1, 2, 4, all. Now, here is the time in the webinar where you can pause and reflect. So far, we have discussed several strategies that you can use that would enhance student communication, them being able to articulate their answers and their reasoning for choosing their answers, and also collaboration, right? Community in the classroom. So we have discussed 1, 2, 4, all. We've discussed bow tie. We have discussed, I'm forgetting one, peer coaching. There we go. Peer coaching, bow tie, 1, 2, 4, all. Okay. So what could any of those strategies look like in your classroom if you're not already using them? If you are already using any of these, what does this already look like in your classroom? And then also, what steps do you need to take to either launch or continue any of these strategies in your classroom? Okay, so I want you to pause, reflect on the questions, answer them within yourself or with yourselves, or you can answer them with me. You can just pause me and act like I'm there. All right, go ahead, pause. Okay, did you answer? Did you reflect? I hope so, because reflecting is something that we want our students to do. Okay, so this next section is reflect and reveal. Reflect and reveal, reflect and reveal. So let's get into it. Why is reflecting so important? Like, why is it so important that our students reflect? Well, it's important because reflecting makes learning visible, right? It allows students to be able to name the things that they have learned throughout the course of the year. It also strengthens their memory, right? In order to reflect, our students have to almost time travel. They have to go back in time and remember, oh my goodness, they have to remember. I just had an epiphany, right? Because we just talked about a memory strategy. That's a stage of learning in our last webinar. Who remembers that? Retrieval. Thank you very much. If you said that, you're right. Okay, so I'm sorry I just did a one-off, but I really had an epiphany. We talked about retrieval, right? It's a retrieval practice. Reflecting is retrieval. Reflecting is retrieval. So that would help our students to strengthen their memory on all the things that they have learned. It also builds self-awareness. It allows students to be able to go back and say, well, I think that I did this and I think I did it really well. And I think that I was successful. So these are strategies that I want to keep in my bank, right? Or maybe I could have improved on that, or I could have done this a little bit better in order to be more successful than I was. All right. So it builds self-awareness. And lastly, it brings closure. What were my grows for the year? What were my glows for the year? What were my wins? What were my personal accomplishments? What are some things that, like, hey, I may have done this wrong, or I may have, could have improved, or if I would have applied myself a little bit more, maybe I would have been more successful at that. Okay, so it's super important to have your students reflect. And if you're like, oh, reflecting takes too much time, I don't want them to journal, or I don't want them, do it. Do it. Because if they get comfortable with that practice, then they'll get comfortable reflecting on the decisions that they've made, not just in school, but in life as well. So make sure your students are reflecting, people, and you too, as teachers, make sure you're taking some time to reflect. All right. Now, with reflecting, this doesn't have to be something that takes an hour or takes hours at all. Reflecting could be something super quick. You can have your students take out a sticky note and write down something that felt hard to them at first. You could have them write on a piece of paper, or maybe you have a journal in your classroom. You could have them write a message to next year's students, the students that are about to come to your current class, right? Maybe they have a message that they want to share with them, or they just want to encourage them or make them aware of some things that they already have gone through, right? Or your students can write a message to themselves in the fall. And this is so good. I love when students write letters to themselves in the fall, because it also kind of forces you as the teacher to reconnect with that student so that they can get that letter. Like, can you imagine that? It's like they moved upstairs. I don't even see them anymore. And now they got to come after their letter, right? Like, it's just so personal. Like, we have to build our organic relationships, right? Now, if this is something that you're interested in, we have an end of year reflection sheet. Now, we have them for K-5, we have them for 612. So if you have scanned that QR code, these will be sent to you in the follow-up email, but they are also available on our website at www.uncomplicated.com, just in case you want a template. Okay, so this is what that looks like. Now, we kept it simple, but how do we keep it going, right? How do we keep the learning going throughout these next couple of weeks or the last couple of weeks of school? Well, you can have your students write a narrative story of this entire school year, where the students are the main character. So they would have to answer questions like, which supporting characters will you include? What's the conflict? How is it solved or resolved? Like, can you imagine your students practicing their writing skills, having to retrieve what all they went through, if they had any conflict or if they had any successes or personal wins, and they have to write essentially their story for the year. This is so important and it's so useful. And I think that this is something that your students can also have fun with. It makes writing fun, it makes it personal. So here's another strategy that you can use for ELA to keep it going. You could have your students write or draw 5 main events from the year and put them in order. Now we're talking sequencing, right? You can have them write their year as a haiku. I personally love a 575. I love a good 575. You can have them write an autobiography, or you can have them discuss the theme that was their story this year, what details support that theme, right? Or you can have them write an argumentative paper on why next year students will enjoy this grade or subject the most, or teacher the most. Hey, you want to toot your own horn, beep, beep. Now for math, you can have your students look at the school calendar. How many total Mondays were there? How many days were we in school in quarter 4? So you can actually pause these. I'm not going to read them all, but you can pause them and actually read the questions to yourselves if this is something that you're considering doing. For ELA 612, you can pause here and you can read all of the prompts. So you can have them write something like this in either that interactive journal or a sheet of paper, however. And then for math, same thing, right? You can have them estimate the number of lessons that you had in math this year and write a ratio, right? So in order to stop me from reading all of these once again, feel free to pause me so that you can read them to yourself. All right, so we've reflected, we talked a bit about reflecting. Now, let's talk reveal. Well, reveal, what does that look like? Often we talk about our students lacking background knowledge and how that is one of the biggest pitfalls these days, like when educating and when teaching. But what if we had an active hand in building that background knowledge? Right? So we can use these last weeks of the school year to help build our students' background knowledge and help front load our students' future knowledge that they will need, in order to be successful in the next grade. So what does that look like? Well, here's a couple of examples. You can discuss vocabulary or concepts from next year's text. You can discuss historical figures or events. Maybe you're an ELA teacher and you want to, read a book or read a couple of books that include the location that will be discussed in history, right? Or maybe I'm trying to think of some other examples. Maybe some of the vocabulary words that their next year's teacher discusses, maybe you want to include in a spelling bee, or I don't know. I'm trying to think of like how you could incorporate what it is that they will see next year into your final weeks of school. Okay. But this is also a way that we can help out with that background knowledge that we feel like our students lack. And then front loading future knowledge. Well, you can ask next year's teacher, what is it that they plan to teach? What are some things that you can help with right now that will make that matriculation just a little bit easier, right? You can pre-teach some of those concepts, use your vertical progressions, and of course, vocab, vocab, vocab. I cannot stress vocabulary enough, right? So when you're doing that, And you're helping your students to bridge that gap, right? Like, what is it that my students need to know or would be beneficial to my students learning that would help them to go on to the next grade? Like in a few months, just do whatever you can to bridge that gap so that whenever they get to the next grade, they're like, I've never seen this before in my entire life, or I've never heard these words before in my life. I've never heard of this setting. I've never heard of this location. And instead, already introducing them to texts, already talking about historical events or figures or anything that could just be beneficial for them to be successful the next year. All right. So we refined, we reflected, we revealed, did all the things. But now let's talk about you. Everything has been so student-centered, and we know that educators make the world go round, which, by the way, happy belated Teacher Appreciation Week. So we have refresh and refuel. Now, is this for members only? No, this is only for the squad, okay? For teachers only. What can we do to initiate self-care in these final weeks, right? So let's start with this. What's your jam? Like, what is your favorite song? Like, when you had a bad day, you play this song, or before you're going into a day that you feel like may be stressful, it may be tough. What is your jam? Okay. If you want to pause me now and be like, I think it may be this. I think it may be that. I think it may, you can get with this, you can get with that. Okay, so I want you to pause me, think about what that favorite song is. Once you think about your happy song or the song that turns you up or gets you hyped, this is the song that I want you to play on the way to school. This is the song that, or if it's a playlist, if you're an overachiever like me when it comes to music, I'm gonna make a whole playlist. This is the playlist that I'm listening to on the way to school. This is the playlist that I put my AirPods in during lunch and I'm listening to. This is the playlist I'm playing on the way home. Okay, music is self-care for me. If you're anything like me, involve music, especially music that makes you feel good some kind of way, right? Now, another thing you can do, and this is something you can do right now, if you have a sticky note around, go ahead, grab a pen, grab that sticky note, jot down your wins, jot down your grins, and positive things that have taken place. So let's say tomorrow, you jot down something that made you smile, something that you're proud of, and something that you need to hear. Nobody else, just you. Jot these things down. And once you do that, I want you to leave it on your screen before you power down for today or for the day. So let's say you do dismissal. Before dismissal, I want you to put it right there on your screen. If you could see my laptop right now, I have several little notes to myself. The only thing is I didn't write them down. I just had that sticky notes app. So, hey, if that's your jam, put the sticky notes app out and just have that sticky note right there on your desktop. Something that looks like this. You got this. You have worked hard and your students enjoyed the game today. So that's an example. Maybe it just looks like, hey, my students left and they learned something that they had never learned before. Or I refreshed a topic and they were familiar with it, right? Jot that down, put it on your screen so that the next morning you can read it and you can power up for another great day. May 16th is Friday, so you can power up for a great Friday. Okay, so write a little note to yourself. And then another thing that you can do is you can pass that positivity along. So maybe you can think of one or more of your colleagues, your teacher bestie. I know you got one, or maybe you got a teacher crew. Think of one or more colleagues, grab a sticky, and jot down a kind word or a message. I want you to hashtag pass the positivity, pass the positivity, right? Just a little note. It doesn't even take a long time. It could be something as simple as you are great at what you do. You are surviving this week. You are doing a fabulous job of doing this. Thank you so much for sharing your resources. Thank you so much for dedicating your time, your energy, and your love and your heart to teaching these students. And thank you for doing so for 180 days. Could be something like that. Right, so pass the positivity. These are things that you can do for yourself. If you're also just the type where you want to go home and run a bubble bath, put a little Epsom salt in that bubble bath, you know, watch your favorite show, watch your favorite movie, watch your comfort movie, do whatever it is that you need to do for you. You are more powerful than any program. You're more reliable than any resource, and you are more influential than any initiative. So us over here at Uncomplicate Ed, we value you, we appreciate you, and we see you. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I couldn't put it a million times. I wanted to put thank you a million times, but I just settled for 5. But thank you all so much, educators, for everything that you do. Thank you so much for allowing me to spend this time with you, even if it was through the screen. Thank you for tuning in. I certainly hope that you have a fabulous, fabulous rest of your school year. And thank you so much for being here and for doing what you do. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at info@uncomplicateed.com, or you can email me personally at Ebonique, EBONIQUE, at uncomplicateed.com. While I have you, please make sure that if you do not know about PD in a Box, that you log on to the link below and that you find out more information. Now, just in short, it's something that we create so that you are able to facilitate to your teachers. Now, the one that we currently have is on poetry. So a unit on poetry, if this is something that you're interested in to build capacity, to save time, and to improve the learning, and we can't make it out to your school, you can do what we do. You can facilitate by using this PD in a Box. It comes with resources. It comes with a flash drive with all the information. It comes with handouts, all the things that if you've been to one of our trainings, we pack it in this box for you to be able to facilitate a training too. Okay, so PD in a Box. This is definitely something that you want to tap into. And of course, if you are not already in our Facebook group, make sure that you log onto Facebook right now and you join Uncomplicating Education across the nation. Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you for your energy. And I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your school year. Take care.